What you just witnessed was the kind of football game that makes people furious because it refuses to fit into neat narratives. And at the center of that chaos is Sam Darnold, a quarterback many fans, analysts, and even teammates have already decided they do not trust. Yet here he is being praised on ESPN after a Seahawks win that should not exist on paper, a win that felt dead with 10 minutes left, a win that was buried under interceptions, mistakes, and doubts, and somehow ended with Seattle locking up the NFC lead and a playoff berth, forcing everyone watching to confront an uncomfortable question they do not want to answer, which is whether Sam Darnold just authored one of the most mentally resilient stretches of football we have seen this season, or whether this was simply the most misleading comeback of the year dressed up as redemption, because when a quarterback throws 2 interceptions, including one to a nose tackle in the red zone, and still gets celebrated on national television, that alone is enough to ignite outrage, disbelief, and heated debate, especially when the praise comes with caveats that somehow make it even more explosive, with analysts openly admitting the concerns are still there while simultaneously tipping their hat. And that contradiction is exactly why this game has detonated across the football world. Because people cannot decide whether to crown Darnold for surviving the storm or indict him for creating it in the first place. And that tension is the heartbeat of this entire conversation, a game that swung violently from collapse to miracle, from written off to #1 seed, from interception disaster to a 2-point conversion so absurd it barely feels real. And if you are uncomfortable right now, if you feel conflicted, if you feel like you do not know what to think about Sam Darnold anymore, that is exactly the point, because this game was not about comfort or clarity. It was about pressure, chaos, and whether a quarterback with a long history of inconsistency could stare directly into his own worst tendencies and keep playing anyway. Here is what happened and why it has blown up the way it has. The Seahawks were down big, down 16 with just over 10 minutes to go, the script already written in everyone's mind after Sam Darnold threw another interception that felt like the final nail, the kind of mistake that tells you a game is over and a narrative is confirmed, and then everything flipped. Seattle scored 2 touchdowns in a 3-minute span, capped by one of the most unbelievable 2-point conversions anyone can remember. A play so chaotic it defied logic, and suddenly the game was tied. The Rams, who had controlled so much of the night, unraveled through a combination of 3 straight 3-and-outs, special teams disasters, and missed opportunities that gave Seattle life again and again. By the time overtime arrived and Seattle walked it off 38-37, this was no longer just a comeback. It was a referendum on execution, coaching, mental toughness, and most controversially, Sam Darnold himself. If you are enjoying this breakdown and want more deep dives like this into the moments everyone is arguing about, make sure you subscribe and drop a like, because this season is delivering debates that refuse to cool off. The most important thing ESPN did in this conversation was refuse to let Sam Darnold off the hook while still praising him, and that is what makes the praise feel so volatile. Emory Hunt said it plainly: the concerns with Darnold are not going anywhere. They will always be there. That alone is a brutal admission. This was not a clean game. This was not a steady performance. This was not a quarterback answering every question. This was a quarterback who made the same mistakes he has made before. Bad footwork, predetermined decisions, forcing throws, not understanding down and distance, throwing interceptions that had nothing to do with bad luck and everything to do with choice. One of those interceptions went straight to a nose tackle in the red zone, the kind of play that makes coaches sick and fans reach for the remote. And yet, in the middle of all of that, he did something that cannot be coached easily and cannot be dismissed lightly. He kept playing. He did not spiral. He did not shut down. He did not let the game end him mentally. According to the analysts, he showed what they called a short-term memory of a seal. A vivid way of describing a quarterback who can forget the worst moments quickly enough to still function under extreme pressure. That trait is rare, and it is exactly why this performance is so polarizing, because mental resilience does not erase physical mistakes, but it can sometimes overpower them in the moments that matter most. When the Rashid Shaheed punt return touchdown cracked the game open emotionally, you could feel the shift. That was the spark, not just on the scoreboard but in belief. Suddenly, the Seahawks were alive, and Darnold responded by playing his best football of the night when everything around him had already gone wrong. The second 2-point conversion, the execution of that drive, the calm under pressure. That is where the praise really locked in. Analysts pointed out that from that moment on, the operation was flawless, and that matters because it happened after failure, not before it. It is easy to play well when things are going right. It is much harder to recover when you are the reason they went wrong. That is why this performance feels like it contains multitudes, as Emory Hunt described it. It was ugly and brilliant, reckless and composed, flawed and clutch all at once. But here is where the conversation gets even sharper. because even in the middle of praising Darnold, ESPN could not bring itself to say they trust him in the playoffs. That hesitation is deafening. When asked directly if this game changed how much faith they would have in Darnold under postseason pressure, the answer was essentially no. The reservations remain. That is an astonishing dynamic. Seattle has the inside track to the 1 seed, the bye, and home field advantage in front of the 12s. Yet the quarterback leading that charge is still being discussed as a liability waiting to resurface. That tension seeps into the locker room whether people admit it or not. Teammates can celebrate resilience while privately wondering which version of their quarterback will show up when there is no margin for error. Coaches can praise toughness while designing game plans that quietly protect against the mistakes they know are possible. Media narratives can crown a comeback while keeping the doubt chamber loaded for the next interception. This game also refuses to exist in isolation. The analysts referenced the earlier matchup between these teams where Seattle turned the ball over 4 times and nearly won anyway. This time, the turnover issues showed up again, but the margin flipped just enough. The hair was long enough, as they put it, to win. That is a thin line, and thin lines are terrifying in the playoffs. The 1 seed may come down to 2 two-point conversions, including one that felt almost accidental, a lateral off a helmet recovered in chaos. Are those the kinds of moments you want deciding your postseason fate? Or are they warnings that fortune has been leaned on too heavily? While the spotlight burns on Darnold, the Rams' collapse adds another layer to this controversy. Matthew Stafford threw for 457 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Puka Nacua went nuclear with 12 catches for 225 yards and 2 touchdowns, the most receiving yards by any player in a game this season, and the most by a Ram since Isaac Bruce in 1997. And they still lost. That alone feels like a football crime. The analysts tore into the Rams' inability to finish, pointing to special teams as a season-long Achilles heel, from blocked and missed field goals earlier in the year to the punt return touchdown that swung this game. They questioned coaching decisions, especially the insistence on forcing Blake Querim into the offense late when Kyren Williams had been effective, a choice that led to stalled drives, a near-disastrous deflection that almost became a game-ending interception in overtime, and a general unraveling outside of Stafford and Nacua. Penalties piled up. Drops from players like Kobe Parkinson erased momentum. Injuries up front exposed protection issues that left Stafford absorbing punishment. And yet, even as Stafford and Nacua stacked historic numbers, the win went to the team that survived its own worst impulses just a little better. That contrast feeds directly back into the Darnold debate. How does a quarterback with glaring flaws outlast a quarterback who played nearly perfect football? The answer lies in moments, not totals. Seattle capitalized on Rams' mistakes. Seattle's special teams made the decisive play. Seattle's quarterback, flawed as he was, did not mentally collapse when the game seemed over. That does not make him elite. It does not erase the interceptions. It does not magically resolve years of inconsistency. But it does force a recalibration of how we talk about him. The most dangerous takeaway from this game would be to pretend it answers everything. It does not. ESPN was careful, almost painfully so, to walk that line. They praised Darnold's toughness while reminding everyone of the 6 interceptions he has thrown against the Rams across 2 games. They applauded his ability to breathe, reset, and execute while emphasizing that the interceptions in this game were self-inflicted, not flukes. They acknowledged Seattle's position as a complete team getting it done in all 3 phases while highlighting that the quarterback remains the most volatile variable in the equation. That is why this performance is going to be argued about all the way into January. For some, this was proof that Sam Darnold has grown, that he can weather disaster and still deliver when it counts. For others, this was confirmation that Seattle is winning despite him, skating on the edge of catastrophe and trusting that chaos will continue to break their way. Both interpretations are supported by the same tape. That is what makes this so combustible. When a quarterback can throw 2 brutal interceptions, including one to a defensive lineman, and still walk off the field as the leader of the NFC, you are forced to confront how messy football truth really is. This game did not make Sam Darnold a sure thing. It did not silence the doubts. What it did was make it impossible to dismiss him outright. And sometimes in a league obsessed with certainty, that unresolved tension is the loudest story of all.